Now, on Monday, former President Jimmy Carter sat down with Bernie Sanders to talk about an issue that I think everybody should be concerned about: the rising tide of authoritarianism. Now, the reason that I bring this up is this comes right after the French election between Emmanuel Macron, who represents the centrist establishment, versus the far-right Marine Le Pen, who, despite losing the election, actually got a large share of the vote. Now, the two spoke about this at the Carter Center, and I want to show you a video, and this is just after a moderator asked about this rise of authoritarianism, both in the United States and in Europe. What was the cause of this? And both Carter and Sanders agreed on what the actual cause is, and I want to show you what that answer is.
I believe that the root of a downturn in human rights preceded 2016. It began earlier than that. And I think the reason was the disparity in income, which has been translated into the average person, you know, good, decent, hardworking, middle-class people feeling that they are getting cheated by the government and by society. And they don't get the same element of health care. They don't get the same quality education. They don't get the same political rights, particularly after the stupid decision of the Supreme Court on Citizens United, where they said that it's an unlimited amount of money going into campaigns. But now they feel that even in politics, their choice of a candidate to be president or governor or congressman or whoever is not the same as a rich person's. And also, once that candidate gets in office, if he's successful, quite often the average person feels that they are repaying their contributions with legal bribery, and it's legal. You know, basic human rights, income, status in society, health care, education, participation in politics, justice, the things in which we used to have complete faith now have been distorted by the rich people getting richer and the poor people getting poorer. And when the rich people get a candidate in office, they can be sure that the tax laws and everything else are going to keep them getting richer and richer, but the average person suffers. So I think that dissatisfaction with the existing system of politics resulted in the outcome of the election in 2016 in the United States. People were willing just to take a chance and to abandon democracy and what we know about is basic principles and try something new, no matter what it was.
So there was a lot there that was incredibly interesting. Look, I urge you guys to check out the full video, because that was an amazing answer. Jimmy Carter is woke as fuck, and I think he always has been. Basically, if you didn't hear the video, Ron, he talked about income inequality being the root of why people like Donald Trump and why Marine Le Pen had actually become so competitive in the French election, and that money in politics creates that divide between the rich and poor, and that's why you're seeing the rise of authoritarianism. He knows what's going on. When the rich have more and more money and more people at the bottom get desperate, well, you're going to see them going for any sort of change. What he said at the end, people just wanted something different. They wanted something new. The establishment, the status quo was not working for them. The rich getting richer was not working for them. And so when presented with an opportunity to change something, whether it be in a right-wing direction or a left-wing direction, people took their chances. And I think he's absolutely on point on that.
Yeah, I mean, and this, we've seen this throughout history. I mean, this is kind of like, I guess this is always a cliche to point to, but it's very true in this case. When you look at the rise of Adolf Hitler, people in Germany were absolutely desperate. I mean, it was a chore to get a loaf of bread at that point. That country was so devastated from the First World War. Right. They were looking to cling to anything, so they clung to this extremity. That's how this stuff happens. It's the rise of the extremists when the status quo is completely and utterly broken. And, you know, and a lot of the blame for this, you know, it's failed policies, it's neoliberalism. You know, when people really wanted hope and change, and then they had 8 years of center-right policy from Barack Obama, 8 years of center-right policy, that was still a breath of fresh air compared to the Bush administration.
Sure.
But God, that's not saying much. I mean, we couldn't take anymore, and now people clung on to this extremity because, they've been following Democrats for so many years and they're still in poverty. And that's supposed to be the person that sticks up for them, but they're not anymore. They abandoned the unions years ago. And neoliberalism was still the game in town, and we're realizing how broken all of that is now. So yeah, I mean, Jimmy Carter hit the nail on the head, and I would say, to your point about Jimmy Carter being woke, absolutely, Jimmy Carter's one of the guys. When people defended Obama for taking the big cash from Wall Street, and they're like, well, why all the other presidents do it? Why shouldn't he? Well, no, not all the presidents did it. You know who didn't do it? Jimmy Carter didn't do it. Jimmy Carter turned down that money. He wrote books instead. You know who else didn't do it? Harry Truman didn't do it. Harry Truman just went back to Missouri and just had an office space where people could come visit him whenever the hell they felt like it. That's what he did.
Carter, don't forget, Carter also went on to build habitats for
yeah, he's building homes
people.
for people.
He's like 100 years old, and he's still building homes for poor people.
Yeah, and look, we're not saying that you need to live a life of poverty. Look, if you're the president of the United States, I get it. You should pretty much be comfortable for the rest of your life. I understand that.
Sure.
There's plenty of speaking opportunities for you that doesn't involve taking a $400,000 paycheck from Wall Street. The group of people that you were supposed to protect the populace from, that you failed at miserably. You did nothing to condemn the big banks. And also, Barack Obama is supposedly, according to Nancy Pelosi, the leader of the party still. Meanwhile, he's just been on vacation this whole time while the world's burning. And then, there's still people on the left that are very inspired by him and that still turn to him. And what does he do when he finally comes back into the public spotlight? He gives everybody a big fuck you and goes and does a big speech for Wall Street. That's exactly what he does. And people are like, well, he's just a guy making a living. Really? Why, to make a living, did he have to give a big fuck you to all the people that gave him a job for 8 years? Because that's exactly what he did. That is exactly what he did. And no, not all presidents do that. A lot did, but not all of them. It's a little side tangent, but kind of applicable to what we're talking about.
Yeah, but Trevor Noah wants to tell you to fuck off.
Don't get me started.
Just saying that, getting the other side's perspective. Well, he has the right to make as much money. Well, yeah, I guess he does, but the optics. I mean, you have to look at the optics. When you talk about the Obama-Trump war, I keep going back to the same poll because it's so absolutely fascinating. And not just polls, but focus groups, and they sit people down and they talk to them and they say, why did somebody who voted for Obama, vote for Trump? Why are you no longer a Democrat? Well, the Democrats don't stand for me anymore. They stand for the 1%. They stand for the party. Yeah. They stand for the status quo. They stand for their own gain. Well, that criticism gains a lot of weight when the first thing you do as former president of the United States, when you come back from vacation, is to go and make $400,000 at a speech to Wall Street. The optics of it are terrible. And look, and a lot of people will point out, like, well, the optics are terrible, but everybody else did it, as you address that point, and he deserves to be able to do that, and you're just pointing it out because you're racist. Again, one of the most ridiculous arguments I've heard, because, again, if Hillary Clinton did the same thing, say she won, and then she cashed out, when actually she did after being First Lady, and Bill Clinton did after he was a president, well, we called that out because that whole system is wrong. It makes you indebted to the people who, gave you money, who you were supposed to regulate during your time as president, and to be able to protect the population from. You're gonna help them along if afterwards they're gonna give you pristine speaking slots and engagements, and you're gonna get paid all sorts of money to do so. You're not gonna do what's best for the American people. You're gonna do what's best for a payday. And look, Donald Trump, no doubt he's gonna try to do that. Like, we know Trump is that guy. right, who's going to take it to a whole new corrupt level. Maybe then the establishment mainstream liberals and Democrats might actually start to get mad at it. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.